Let's go over some pros and cons of the three major types of accounts: cash, margin, and IRA accounts. A cash account only uses your cash. So if you have $50 in your account, that is the only money you can trade with. If you lose it all, your brokerage doesn't care because that's your money, not theirs. The biggest pro of a cash account is the PDT rule does not apply to cash accounts. There are also no margin fees with cash accounts, but the cons are cash accounts are typically pretty limited. You usually can't short stock or trade option spreads or futures on cash accounts. However, every broker is a little bit different and might allow you to do those things. A margin account is the most popular type of account because you get to borrow money from your broker and use that leverage. In other words, you get a loan from your broker with a margin account. Most brokers typically give you a 4-to-1 ratio. So for every dollar that is in your account, they give you $4 worth of buying power or money to play with. So with a $25,000 account, you'll have $100,000 to trade with. Also, with a margin account, you're usually not limited to what you can trade. You can usually short stocks, do option spreads, trade futures. Of course, it depends on what your broker actually approves you to be able to trade. Because you have the margin account, there are a few more rules than a cash account that can be seen as cons. First, they charge margin fees. Usually this is around 8 to 9% APR when you hold margin overnight. But every brokerage is slightly different. You will only pay fees on the margin, not on the total amount of the trade. For example, say your account has $5,000 in it, and you buy 1,000 of a $10 stock. This costs you $10,000 in buying power. You will have 5,000 of your own cash in the trade and have to pay margin fees on the 5,000 in margin that you used to hold this position overnight. If your margin account was at, say, 10% margin rate, then to figure out what you'd be charged, you would take the $5,000 of margin that you're using, times it by 0.1 or 10%, and that gives you $500 a year. Now you can divide the $500 by 360, which is how most brokers calculate it, and that's around $1.40 each night you hold it. So really, if you're holding it just for a couple days or so, it really doesn't cost you too much in margin fees. However, if you use the margin to day trade, you will not pay any fees. The fees only occur overnight. That's why I like to day trade with margin and just not use margin on my swings. Another con is that the PDT rule does apply to you, which you should know that by now. You can also get what's called a margin call. A margin call is when your losses have met a threshold where it's just too much for your broker, and they'll want you to either deposit more money or they will force you out of your positions so they can take back the money that you've borrowed from them. You may also get a margin call if your position is just simply too large. This might happen because with most brokers, you get that 4-to-1 margin ratio, but that's only for the day trading. Typically, a broker will only give you 2-to-1 for overnight margin. Of course, it all depends on your broker, and some handle things a little differently, but this could happen and it is normal to be enforced. The last type of account is the IRA account. This is a retirement account. There are two main types of IRA accounts, Roth or traditional. With a Roth IRA, you are putting in your money after you have paid taxes on that money. This makes it so it can grow tax-free. Then when you withdraw it after the age of 59 and a half, you won't be charged taxes or penalties. With a traditional IRA, you are contributing before you pay taxes on that money. This means that you will have to pay taxes when you withdraw it from your IRA as current income. With both the IRAs, you need to leave the money in the IRA account until you are 59 and a half. If you withdraw it before you're 59 and a half, you will likely get a penalty fee of around 10%. However, all these numbers can change based off government laws and regulations. Also, as a side note, IRA accounts are usually cash accounts, not margin accounts, but some brokerages do offer IRA margin accounts. If you have any further questions about taxes, or if an IRA account is something you should be doing, then you should consult a tax professional, as I am not a tax professional, so they'll be able to help you out a lot better. That's it for this topic. I'll see you in the next video.